Okay, I hope everyone can hear me and we can start. So, my name is Tatiana and I'm working in EPAM as Java developer. So, today we are going to talk about enums. Um, so, what we are going to, sorry, what we are going to talk today is what is enum, how to create it, which properties and method it has, and where we can use enums. So then we will have some if you have questions, we will have some time to answer it. So you can post your questions in the chat, and we will see them and try to answer. So if we are ready, we can start. So what is enum? Enum in Java, it's a special mechanism, I would say, for creating constants. And also enum is a special class that represents that group of constants. The enum is basically the class that inherited from enum. That's why we can't extend from any class. It would be not allowed, but we can implement some interfaces. This functionality was added in GDK 1.5, and you can see an example of the enum here on the slide. So basically, what we need to do to create it is to have the name and some of the constants like season. We have different seasons: winter, spring, summer, and autumn. As any class, enum also can have different methods, and it can have variables, and also as any class it can have constructor. You can see that the example here we have the season, and in the constructor we just print the name of the season. But what's interesting in case of enum that all of the constants will be created when the class is loading. For example, here we only use the spring constant, but it will first of all create all of them and then execute the print function. Yeah, let's move on to methods. So enum has a lot of methods, and I want just briefly talk about it, and then we will go to some practice. So enum has two protected methods. It's clone and finalize, and it wouldn't be allowed to use them because enum can't be finalized or cloned. And if we, for example, try to use clone method, it will throw a clone not supported exception. Also, we can compare enums. We can, for example, get the number. I mean, the ordinal of this constant. As any class, it has toString, hashcode, and equals methods. I think we can move to demonstration. Yeah, I have created the project with the main class. So let's just create the new enumeration. We will call it season. Yeah, and we'll just need to type our constants in capital letters because it's in our conventions. Yeah, and we can then use these constants in our main class. Let's try to create one of them. For example, season. Let's call it season 1. And then how we can introduce it is just call the class name, the enum name is season, and we can choose these 4 constants or examples of the season. Let's try with spring. Yeah. Also, what we can do here is when we use the name of the enumeration is to get different values. It would be array of values, and also we can create the constant from the name. Let's try this method. Yeah, for example, we can use this, and let's try to print something to check if it will be created. Yeah, it's created and the name is printed. But what will happen if we try to do with the name which is not in our list? For example, spring 1. In that case, we will get an exception. So be careful with this method and use only the names that are introduced in our enumeration. For example, it wouldn't be also not allowed to use the name not in capital letters, so it's case sensitive. Spring, yeah, the same error. Yeah, also what we can do, we can get all values and, for example, go use them in for loop. Let me type some example. Yeah, what I'm trying to do here is to print all the seasons in every string. Let's try and see how it works. So yeah, they are created in order we introduce them in enumeration, and yeah, they print it in the same order. Yeah, that's all for this methods when we call class name. What we can do with the object of this enumeration. Let's try to use some of them. We have the name method, and what it will can return us is the name of the enumeration. For example, here we can print the name is spring. Yeah, and also what we can do is use the toString method. For example, season dot toString. Yeah, and you can see that both options work the same. So why we need both methods? We need them because the name method is final and we can't change it. So it will always return the name in capital letters like we have. But what we can do is, for example, let me find and post it here. We can overwrite the method toString. So it would get the first letter in capital and then our other letters in lowercase. Let's try to run it. Yeah, you can see that name is in capital letters, and toString we can overwrite and use how we want to use. Yeah. What else we can do? We can compare different enums, and they will be compared based on the order we have in our class. Here we can we order it in such a way. So let's try to compare some of the seasons. For example, we can compare season spring to season autumn. We can compare spring to the same season, and we can compare spring to winter. Yeah, and you can see that the result would be the number. If we compare spring to spring, it would be 0. If we compare spring to previous our enumeration, it would be +1. It would and if we compare spring plus to autumn, it would be -2. Yeah, and also what we can do is to get the order of our example of the class. Yeah, let's check. For spring, it would be 1 because they started from 0. So winter would be 0, spring is 1, summer is 2, and autumn is 3. Yeah, let me check if we talk about everything. I guess yes. So the next what I want to talk about is type safety. If you search something about enumerations, you can see such phrases as enum improves type safety. So what is type safety? Our language is type safe if the only operation we can perform on data is in the language are those sanctioned by the type of the data, and the enum type are type safe because we can't assign anything else other than perfect enum constants in enum variable. Maybe it's not so understandable when it's written here on the slide, but let me show you one more example. Yeah, I have created the class with different constants like currency constants. for example, here you can see the quarter is 25, the dime is 10, and so on. And we have the class wallet, which which have currency, which have int as currency. We can use this integer values to for that variable, and also quantity. But the potential problem here is that we can by mistake introduce another quantity, like not only 1, 5, 10 or 25, but anything else. And also there are some situations when we need to know the name of the currency. For example, we will have here only the value, which is 1 or 5, but we won't know what is the proper name of this currency. So for that, the solution will be to introduce the currency num. Let me do that. Yeah, and we can have this such same names. I forgot about something. It's nickel. Yeah, and use them in the wallet, in our wallet class, for example, here. Yeah, but what about our values for that, for all of these currencies? For that, we can introduce a local variable, for example, sorry, integer value. And also we need to create the constructor with this variable, like integer value. Yeah, and we need to set these values in our constructor. So the penny would be 1, then it would be 5, 10, and 25. Yeah, and if we need to get this value, we can just introduce the method, because it's a class and we can use methods here. Let's try to use something. So yeah, we can create currency, example dime, and we can print the currency value. Yeah, it is 10 as expected. Yeah. Also, what we can do in our enum is create abstract method. How it works? Let me show you. Yeah, let's create some abstract method. For example, it won't return any value, and we can call it print name and value. You can see it's highlighted in red. So we need to implement that method in every of our example. So let me just try to put something here. We need to overwrite the method. For the first, we can just for the second, we can do something similar, but it would be the third one can be also a bit different with capital letters, and the third one, the fourth one, is like that. So yeah, it's implemented for every of our currencies, and yeah, we can use this method in other classes. For example, we can just execute currency, print name and value, and it will print us the dime 10. So let's move on to our main to our presentation. Yeah, let's talk about what we can how we can use this Enums. So as Enums improves type safety, it's a good opportunity to use them into switch. You can see that it's basically the same implementation, but it depends on version of Java. So depending on which season we get in our method, we will print different values. Like if it's spring, it would be printed spring. Here it would be printed fall. Here it would be printed winter. I think yeah, it's good opportunity to use here this switch in the switch. It's good opportunity to use here the enumeration. Yeah. Also, what we can do, we can use them in different design patterns for different purposes. For example, it's not the topic of our today's session, the design patterns, but just some examples of using in singleton. For example, this pattern, what we needed, it's just to have the only object of the class. So here we can see the only enumeration here, and we can use the method, and no other objects will be created. Yeah, and also we have, for example, state pattern, and you can see here different states. And when we switch from one state to another, the behavior of some other class will be changed, and we can know what is the other next state. Yeah. Also, let's talk a bit about inheritance in enumerations. So here you can see the example of enumeration, like we have different units, and yeah, what would be if we call get class on different on these different examples of the units class. For example, it would be if we call get class, we will see that it's unit 1. If we call on another example, it's unit 2, and if we call on third example, it's unit 3. But if we call the superclass, it would be the unit. So basically, the result is like we have different in our memory that would be different classes, but the superclass would be the one. It's a unit. I guess that's it from my side. Let me check if you have any questions.
Yeah, there are several questions. Let me read them to you aloud. Okay, so the most popular question was, can you please provide an example when Enums implements interface and how it could be used?
Yeah, let me try to create some interface. Yeah, for example, the same. We have, let's create printable interface with method print. Yeah, and we can implement an interface. Yeah, and here we can, for example, what we can do is print the name of the season. Let's do like that. Yeah, and add something like, yeah, and let's try to use it so we can create season, for example, winter, and we can execute method print. Let's try. Yeah, it will print. Sorry, I need to add. Yeah, then it would be more readable. Yeah, I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, thank you. I will add that it's quite a rare case when Enums implement some interfaces, so Java allows it, but I think 90 or 95% of Enums don't implement anything. Okay, and there was another question. Enum has method values which is not described in Java doc. Are there any other hidden methods? How can we find these methods?
Yeah, basically, I was talking about some methods that I used here. Let me open, the content. They used more in our like live project, but yeah, you can see, maybe you can see more of them. I hope I describe everything, maybe except this one. It was introduced in Java 12. Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, it was introduced because of in Java 12 there was introduction of JVM constants API. Yeah, and unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to use this method, but and I didn't see any implementation of it. But yeah, we can still have it, and the description is here. Basically, it return in enumeration description, for instance. Yeah, if it can be created, and it's yeah, or and empty optional if it can be created.
May I add something?
Yeah.
I think values method is not described in the Java doc because it's a static method that is added to your enumeration class. So it's not a method of the enum constant.
Yeah.
This method is mentioned in Java doc. If you read it, I think inside the Java doc of value of method, values is mentioned. And if you would like to see all the available methods, you can use any kind of IDE. So you just type the name of your enum, then you put dot and IDE just suggests you all the methods that exist on this type.
Yeah, there is a difference between like what we can see if we type season dot. We have these values and the value of methods, and yeah, and if we use this season sprint dot, we can see other methods.
Yeah, okay, and we have maybe the last question. If you have any more, don't hesitate to ask them. So the question is, could you tell when we're using inheritance enums? So I think, if I understood correctly, when should we write enums that implement interfaces?
Yeah, I think you already mentioned that basically we don't usually implement interfaces. Yeah, I for now we just have that opportunity, but I didn't see any a real world example of using implementation. Maybe my colleagues can help me, and maybe they have seen something like that.
Yeah, actually, I have seen it on my previous project. We had several enums where we described all the exceptions that can happen in our application. So what description of an exception the user sees when this exception occurs. And all these enums implemented one interface. I don't remember its name, but it just had the methods to return the name of an exception, of an error. So different enums can be used in one method because they implement a single interface. So it was useful, but it's a rare case, I think. Okay, I think we ran out of questions. Maybe you will submit some more right now. Okay, So I don't see any more questions. I think we can finalize this talk. Thank you, Tatiana, a lot. I think it was very useful for us.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks all for participation and asking questions.
Okay, thank you. I will end this light talk. See you the next week. Bye.
Bye bye.